Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Nancy Light. I'm Vice President of Communications for the Wine Institute, and I'm so thrilled that you could join us today for this webinar on creating outstanding virtual experiences that boost sales. This is actually a webinar we've been wanting to offer since mid-March when the world changed. But as most of you know, Wine Institute was really focused on providing our members all the tools they needed to navigate the fast-changing regulatory, compliance, safety, and business issues around COVID-19. You'll find all of those resources on our website. That's the Wine Institute website and our COVID-19 page. We also worked really closely with our public relations and social media consultants to keep California wines top of mind with trade and media during this period. And so I was really delighted when they offered to share their experience and expertise with you today in the lead up to California Wine Month. First, we're going to start with the outstanding Jean Sullivan-Bellecci of Sullivan Says Public Relations and Coaching. She's done a really great job of managing our lifestyle public relations activities for more than a dozen years now. And she was joined 2 years ago by the very talented Tina Caputo, well known to many people. She's a great writer, editor, and content creator. Adrian Young and Casey Cornwell are our ACE social media team. They've grown our social media following and engagement by threefold over the past 2 years, and I know you'll want to hear everything they have to say in that area. And then finally, we're just so delighted and honored to have Sarah Elliman with us from Cellar Pass and Cellar Pass TV today to share her perspective and insights. We met Sarah recently in our discussions about a California Wine Month partnership. This is going to be our 16th annual California Wine Month celebration. And this is always a big opportunity for our publicity and social media engagement every year as we work with all of our members, regional associations, retailers, restaurateurs, and others to really put the spotlight on California wine during our annual harvest. We usually have upwards of 100 events happening all over the state each year. And although this is going to be a different year, we think it's a great opportunity to show how California wineries have adapted through creativity and innovation to reaching out to consumers. They've really accepted the challenge and built better consumer relations, have provided pleasure, entertainment, and also kept their businesses viable by selling wine through virtual events. We sent out our toolkit in early July, and that includes logos, banners, social media posts, and more for you to use to participate in our annual celebration. And we invite all wineries and regional associations and members of Wine Institute to submit events to be part of this celebration. You submit our events, and we'll talk about it more on the Discover California Wines website. And the deadline to be included in our initial public relations outreach is August 14th. We're going to share some ideas with you today about that. I want to thank two members that provided us with some great success stories that we'll be sharing with you today, and that's Rhonda Motil of J-Lo Vineyards and Wines and Megan Driscoll of Terlato Wines. We're going to be running through this presentation pretty quickly to stay within a really efficient hour or so and then have questions at the end for about 10 minutes. We ask that you submit your questions through the Q&A feature so that we can capture those and respond. If you have any technical issues or want to see who's speaking, please use the chat function. And of course, we will be sharing a recording of this presentation, so no need to take notes. Anyway, let's get started. And it's my pleasure now to turn it over to Jean Sullivan-Bellecci to provide some tips for media, and Tina Caputo, who will provide some tips on PR.
Thank you, Nancy. Hi, everybody. So last year, we had a wonderful record year for California Wine Month. With your help, actually, with the help of all of our members and our regional partners, we were able to reach a record audience reach of about 1 billion last year. And that includes about 24 broadcast interviews that we were fortunate enough to book. And I wanted to thank everybody on the call because part of the PR results really are due, in fact, to all the wonderful events that Nancy mentioned last year that you guys hosted. And also wanted to thank you because I've been noticing more and more every year that you guys are using in your PR and marketing efforts the California Wine Month brand during September. That really helps us keep California top of mind in September. So I really appreciate that. I hope you keep doing that. And this year, part of the reason, as Nancy mentioned, we're doing this webinar today is we wanted to give you guys some additional ideas on ways that we can stand out among all the virtual events going on around the world. And just be as creative as possible on ways that we can bring California Harvest right into people's homes. With that, speaking of events, I was hoping to do a quick little poll here. So the poll that I'm about to do is just a quick question, and this doesn't have to be a commitment on your part. We're really just trying to get a sense of what kind of events you guys are thinking of doing. You'll see here on the screen, should be popping up, is do you think at this moment you'll be doing virtual events only? Or do you think you might be, based on COVID restrictions, you might be doing small in-person activities only? Or do you think you might be doing both? If you could just check one of those, it would really be helpful to us in planning our PR efforts. I feel like humming the Jeopardy theme. Do, 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 do. Okay, should be a few more seconds, and then we'll have the results. Oh, great. Oh, that's very interesting. Okay, so about half of you are thinking about doing virtual events only, and close to half are doing both. So that's really helpful, guys. Thank you so, so much. I really appreciate that. And now I thought I would share with you some of the PR opportunities that we have each year for California Wine Month. Some of you may be familiar with these already. Okay, so every year we do a national press release on California Wine Month events. So as you guys submit your events, we'll be looking for, some of the signature events going on around the state that we can feature in the press release. But we will be promoting everybody's events in the calendar for California Wine Month. That link to that calendar gets promoted not only in the press release and in all of our pitches, but also in all the broadcast interviews we're doing. So no matter what, you'll be included as long as you get those details to us by the 14th. And by the way, if anyone's nervous about the 14th fastly approaching, you just have to have an idea of what you're doing and give us a general description so we can get it into the calendar. And another thing I wanted to mention, speaking of the broadcast interviews that we do each year, we would love to hear from you if you have like a really well-known wine personality or really talented broadcast talent that we can use in our efforts to speak on behalf of California Wine Month. We'd love to hear about them. If you have any really unique promotions or events or harvest stories, we'd love to hear about those as well. And the other thing I wanted to mention to you guys, so we've been hearing a lot of feedback from journalists over the past few months since everybody's been doing virtual events. And just wanted to mention 3 top giveaways that we would love to pass on to you guys. Some of you won't be surprised, but some might find this new. So if you guys are planning media previews of your virtual event series, just keep in mind that lifestyle and wine media don't always mix. Sometimes, they have such a different focus that they can frustrate each other with their questions, especially in a limited amount of time. Unless, of course, they're like Tina, who do both kinds of writing. And Tina will elaborate on this a little bit more, but, they're looking for stories that go way beyond this is the new vintage or here's a winemaker to talk to pitch. And of course, one of the things they said that they'd love to see more of is when you're sending the tasting kits in advance of the media preview, go ahead and send the media kit in advance too, instead of giving it to them at the event. This gives them an opportunity to go through all the materials and figure out all the questions they want to ask. And also gets them really excited about the event too. And then I thought in the press kit, we should have, fact sheets, bios, and even some COVID-friendly images for media to use. Just wanted to give you some examples of some that we've been using. And these are all approved for editorial usage. The thing that we were trying to keep in mind is to have images that could take into account all the different COVID restrictions, and also anticipating that as things go up, the restrictions will be different as things open up more. So we have a mixture of indoor and outdoor shots. The indoor shots, of course, will be for later as things open up more. But as you can see, we have people from the same household featured in these images, really enjoying the pleasures of the winery. Also think it's a good idea in your press kits to include some beautiful harvest images. I think the media would really appreciate that. Again, if you see on the lower right, we have an indoor shot. That's just something that we have on hand for later as people are permitted to do indoor tastings later on. And lastly, we pulled together just a few examples of images that media liked of actual tasting experiences. If you don't have these, if you're doing virtual events for the first time, you could just do, stage a photo shoot and try to do one that's general enough that it could be used for all events in your series. I think it's just very, very much appreciated in case journalists, their pictures don't come out or they just like yours better. And another thing I'd like to mention too, this is, in addition to California Wine Month, there are a lot of other wine holidays coming up that we thought you might, just fold into your promotional efforts or even do a theme for a virtual wine event around, such as Cabernet Day, Sparkling Wine Day, Zinfandel Day. These are a lot of things that we can use as a theme. And I wanted to share one really fun example of a promotion that was done around a wine holiday. Some of you may have seen this already, but just a couple of weeks ago was National Wine and Cheese Day. And Cheez-It paired up with House of Wine to do these limited edition white cheddar and house wine rosé box sets. And even though it seems really cheesy, it was actually pretty well received. It got on Seth Meyers' show, Food and Wine magazine, it got on USA Today. So it's just a great example of how just a really simple idea just tied around a holiday could really work well and could possibly be replicated on a smaller level. Maybe if you have a local food purveyor who's really unique that you want to pair up with, you might be able to do that on your own in your own community. And with that, I think I am going to turn it over to Miss Tina.
Good morning. I'm here to talk about virtual events and tastings that are specifically geared toward wine media. So as a journalist, I've been invited to a lot of virtual events over the last 4 months or so. And I've also surveyed some of my wine media friends across the country to get their feedback on what they think makes compelling virtual media events. So the first takeaway that I'd like to share is that a lot of us have been really just bombarded with invitations to these tastings. So it's really important to offer something that's unique, interactive, just something that's a little bit different to draw people in. And just to give you a few examples, you could do a tasting of your new releases paired with cheese. I recently was invited on a press trip down to Carmel Valley with Talbot Vineyards that had to be canceled in April because of COVID. So they did this really cool thing where they called it a virtual press trip, and they invited all of the people who were supposed to be on that trip to gather together virtually, and they sent us all some wines to taste, and they also paired up with a local cheese shop and sent us this beautiful box of different local cheeses. So it sort of added a little extra sense of place to the tasting, and everybody really enjoyed that. It was very cool. So another example could be a virtual blending session with a winemaker. As you can see in the photo, we have Jean-Charles Boisset. This was from a tasting that Raymond Vineyards did. And what they did was they sent all of the media people in advance these like cool wine beakers, and they sent us a few different blending wines. And then their winemaker walked everybody through how to think about putting together a blend. So it was fun and interactive, but it was also educational because it taught us a little bit about their process and how they put their blends together. And then as a cool bonus afterwards, they asked all the media people to email in what the percentages of our final blends were, and they sent us each a souvenir custom bottle of our own blend. So that was pretty great. And finally, it could just be something as simple as a tasting that just teaches the participants something about your particular region or a variety that you specialize in. As much as we all like to just sit and taste wine and talk about wine, we also like to learn new things. And see if I can get to the next slide. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Oh, I went too far. I got to go back one. Giving away the show here. Okay. So another great approach is to find some kind of a hook or a hot topic that lets you share some insights or debate ideas and just delve into some meaty topics. And if you're wondering what kind of topics and subjects that wine writers might care about, follow them on Twitter. There's a lot of wine writers that are constantly talking amongst themselves on Twitter about whatever the latest hot topic is. And here's a hint, clean wines. That's what all the wine writers are talking about and debating right now. So if you put together some kind of a virtual discussion around that, I guarantee you'd get a lot of takers for that. So some other examples, it could be a discussion between a winemaker and a local chef. A couple weeks ago, I participated in a really interesting discussion about the future of Sonoma County's hospitality industry. It could also be vintners discussing the challenges of reopening wine country during COVID, or a roundtable about how to foster diversity in the wine industry. That is also a really hot topic right now that I think a lot of people would value a discussion on that. And just also like to point out that these types of events are great because they're really inexpensive to produce. You don't have to send wine to people. You know, there's no fancy production you have to do. You can literally just set up a Zoom call, get a few interesting people together who can offer different perspectives on the topic, and you're good to go. And these tastings also might lead to stories down the road because these are obviously things that writers are interested in. And, haha, it worked this time. And finally, show, don't tell. That is something that all we journalists learn and are told by our editors when we're learning how to write. So in the realm of a virtual tasting, that would mean breaking up all the talking heads with some compelling visuals. So for example, while you're talking about your vineyards, you could show a map of the different blocks. You could show, if you have a new tasting room, you could show some images of that tasting room, or there was one virtual tasting that I attended where they actually had someone on the marketing team just carried an iPad and walked around with the host to show off their new hospitality center. And you know, that didn't require any fancy tools or equipment, but it gave us a really good visual of what the new hospitality center looked like. You could even do something as simple as just like holding up a rock that you found in your vineyard, some rocks that tell us a story about your terroir. I also want to point out that video is great for these as well. We really love to see some behind the scenes footage of like something cool that's going on in your winery or your vineyard. It could be something that you consider to be just like mundane, like, oh, okay, we're punching down today, or we're grafting, or doing something in the vineyard. That's really interesting to us, especially if you can convey how that translates into the glass and why you're doing things the way that you're doing. And this could be done either like a live stream carrying a phone or an iPad, or you could have some pre-recorded video of that as well that you can just share on your screen. And for my final takeaway to everyone today is that once everything goes back to normal, whatever that is, and it will happen, don't stop doing these events for media. I think people really like these virtual events. It's a great way for you to stay connected to the media who are across the country that you don't see in person very often. And it's also great for the locals as well, like people like me who can't always spare time to come visit you in person as much as we would love to. You know, that could be like an hour drive each way and then a couple hours when you're there. And if you're on deadline, you don't always have time to do that, but you can usually make time for an hour to just take a break and interact with other human beings and taste some great wine. Well, that's me. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks so much, Jean and Tina. And now we're going to hear from Sarah Elliman, co-founder and host of Cellar Pass TV, about best practices for virtual events. Sarah, over to you.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm Sarah Elliman. I'm co-founder of Cellar Pass and also the host of Cellar Pass TV. So I have a little bit of insight on virtual events. I do wanted to really thank everybody for the opportunity to speak to you today. And obviously, thank you so much to the Wine Institute for inviting us to share our insight. We attract a little over 6 million unique visitors a year to our website, and that traffic is skyrocketing right now. It's a little bit of a silver lining in the COVID era right now we didn't expect to see. With that, we really do want to talk to you about, virtual tastings being on Seller Pass. It's a great way to get that information out there. And one thing that we were asked to speak of is our Zoom integration. With virtual experiences, there's a lot of questions and stress on how do we produce it, putting all the tools together and making it easier. And we actually integrated with Zoom really early on. And you can book your private or public virtual experiences through our platform, and it's directly integrated to your Zoom account to create that Zoom meeting and send one confirmation email to your attendees with all of the information they need to participate. So definitely something to keep in mind. We're always about trying to make it easier. We've seen a lot of virtual experiences recently, good, bad, or indifferent. They're out there. And there's just some quick takeaways. I know, again, there's a lot of mystery and uncertainty on how do we produce a virtual experience? How do we make it look good? And my business partner and husband, Jonathan, he comes from a very long line of professional video broadcast experience. And with that, we like to give a few little pointers. One, strong internet connection. If you are going to be stuttering and missing every word, you're going to lose your viewers. It's just simple. So you need a strong internet connection. We do recommend at least 8 Mbps sustained. That might be difficult, but that will give you good broadcastability. Just keep in mind, not only are you pulling the bandwidth, but whatever you are broadcasting from takes a lot of bandwidth too to get to the other side. It's an internet world, and you want a strong one. For us, when we do Seller Pass TV, we have invested in a second solid internet connection from a different provider than our standard connection for our broadcast, just to ensure that we have one dedicated connection for that. The next is lighting. Don't necessarily do what I'm doing, but I did the best I could with my location. But we do recommend 3200 to 3400K, a light, a bright, warm light, not too white, not green. You don't want to look like you're in a mugshot either. It's just very flattering. And as you can see, I kind of have more of a warm lighting going on here. It's really easy to do without getting into different products. I know you can get the programmable lights at Home Depot for very cheap, and they have a free app that you can actually dial in the exact lighting color that you're looking for. And camera position, very important. You don't want to be so far away from the camera they can't see you, and you don't want to be so close that they're looking up your nose either. And then this, you don't want this, and you don't want that. So you do want to be more looking straight on to the eye line of your camera. It could be your laptop, it can be an actual camera, iPhone, whatever it is you're using. Just play with the different settings and prop it up on a wine box, or have a friend hold it and do what you got to do to get a solid eye line with your camera. And of course, talking about internet, have a backup plan. It's really important. For RSVP type private online experiences, you might have a secondary date already on schedule, just in case something happens and you can't broadcast. If you're going to do more like an open house, new release, kind of a, virtual happy hour experience, then for that, you might want to pre-record a little segment as well that you can put up on like YouTube or whatever platform you're using if you couldn't have a solid broadcast, just that there's something there for your viewers to grab as soon as possible. All right, so talking about that, those are just the key basics. That'll help just about anybody put on a decent broadcast and do it successfully and feel confident that what they're doing is going to make everybody proud, especially mom, who will be watching, by the way. Some different virtual experience ideas. I know there's already been some shared, and there's going to be some more shared here soon. Making it easy, food and wine pairings, arts and entertainment, education, kind of create the categories and then build your experiences within that. It's really easy to do. In a recent poll to our Seller Pass guests, 60% responded that it's really difficult for them to find virtual experiences to participate in. We have a huge demand of guests wanting virtual experiences. Actually, it's the third most visited page on our website is the virtual experience section. But we polled guests, and they're saying, it's really hard to find all these experiences. They know they're happening, but some are going through Facebook, some are going through their own email lists. And it's really difficult for these people at home who are dying to participate with you to have a single source where they can find it. So Seller Pass does have a virtual experience category, and we are super, super into promoting it right now because, as you heard, this isn't going to just end soon. And even when it does, just like the media, consumers across the country are excited to participate in some of these experiences too. So keep that in mind. It's a great way to reach your club members throughout the year, as well as some of your biggest fans that maybe can't travel to you as often as they wish they could. And the really important thing is selling. You can create your experiences for a lot of different reasons. It may be just brand engagement, just to kind of keep memories fresh that you're still there, and those are great. Some of the best ones I've seen are just short 15-minute like kickoff to the weekend, focusing on one wine and maybe like the thought of the week. Really easy, fun to do. Then if you really want to sell your product, which I know is very important to most of our clients and probably everybody who's watching, you want to design your experience around the sales goal. Planning is key. As with anything, 80% of the effort and success is going to be in your planning. So define what your experience is going to be. Is it a food and wine pairing? Is it a new release? What are you going to do there? And then design your experience and make it easy for guests to purchase. So promotion time is valuable. 71% of our guests polled came back and said, you know what? We don't have enough time to purchase. We would really like to. So they're finding it when they do finally find the experience that they can't participate fully, and that's a problem. So give yourself at least 3 weeks lead time, promote the experience, let your guests have the opportunity to buy and receive their products to participate with you, and they will reward you, hopefully, with more reorders. One way to really engage with your guests is to ask them to register for the broadcast. I've seen a lot where you can just kind of jump on, and that's great, but that leaves you empty-handed in the end on how you're going to reach those viewers down the road. So if you can get them to register up front, hopefully you have a platform you can work with that will allow you to do that. You can even pay gate it. I know with our platform, you can make it a free broadcast. You can charge in advance. You can even put your products up for sale on the event page so that you get this, capture the sales of the product as well as promoting your event. Seller Pass is all about events, so we're big on that. During your broadcast, don't be shy to ask for the sale. I do a lot of in-person secret shopping, have for years. It's one of my hero powers is secret shopping. And I will tell you still to this day that the #1 missed element in the tasting room and definitely online is asking for the sale. Consumers are pretty eager to spend money with you if you just ask. So during your broadcast, if you are about selling a product, this is the time to offer a one-time only, like maybe special purchase deal, short window of time to respond so that you get that reorder during the broadcast, maybe within the next 48 hours. Really easy to do, just ask. And then, of course, follow up with your viewers. So going back to registering, if you don't have their information, it's going to be very difficult to follow up with them. So definitely, I encourage you to do that. And then in your follow-up, of course, you want to thank them for joining you. Maybe go ahead and put in those promo codes and offers that you mentioned in your broadcast. And don't forget to promote your next upcoming event. Very important. In that, we had a great success story with Acumen in Napa Valley. They really hit it out of the park. I thought, they had a very engaging representative. That's important. Have somebody who's comfortable being on camera, is somewhat personable. It helps. And they had a well-defined goal. They also looked at current hot topics, and this was in April, and MLB was all over the news. Will there be a season? Won't there be a season? What's going to happen? And they realized that one of their biggest fans and club member was Chili Davis, the batting coach for the New York Mets and also a very beloved previous Giants player. So he drew a lot of attention to the show. He's also an avid wine collector. Super fun to talk with, but they used that to reach a bigger audience than just their own club membership or where they could get. So they got sports fans as well as their existing audience. made it really easy to promote. They also made it easy to buy and left at home a little over 3 weeks to get those wine sales secured and out the door, and guests had them. They followed up with every purchase to give tips on doing in-home tastings, food pairings, to really engage their guests and create a more, I would say, more intimate or individualized experience for each guest at home. So that was really great. And they did offer the limited time reorder during the show. All of this goal was for sales. They needed the sales. In April, we weren't sure what was going to happen, so this was really important. And it was such a huge success for them that they not only met their pre-COVID goals for DTC in April, they exceeded them by a long shot. And they could definitely track those right back to the show. So it was really a tool for them to get their customers excited about ordering, and they did it. It was really, really, really fun to watch how that happened. So with that, knowing that consumers are looking for online experiences, please get it out there. They are dying to spend their money with you and their time with you, more importantly. I know right now tourism is open a little bit. We're all working through it. But that doesn't mean that everybody is going to be coming to wine country. Some are out of the area and it's just going to not be feasible. Some are not comfortable traveling yet. I do recall in a recent seminar with, was it Napa Valley, Visit Napa Valley, sorry, my brain is fried today, that they were saying that 60% of American travelers, period, are simply not comfortable traveling right now. So when you put that into consideration, you're not going to see the normal, for a while. And most of those travelers were not planning on traveling before 2021. So this is a great opportunity to keep these virtual experiences going, refine them, have fun with them. They're looking for something a little bit more engaging and interactive. So think of, food and wine pairings. I loved the Cheez-It and wine pairing because it made it so simple to do. I mean, it was just like, oh my gosh, anybody could grab, order Amazon even, a bag of Cheez-Its and then grab a bottle of wine and participate. Didn't make it hard at all. Other things would be like the blending. I love what Boisset is doing with their blending at home. It's brilliant and so easy to do. It's something that they've taken from the on-site experience, packaged up, and you can do it at home with your family, with some close friends. Totally exciting. Other ideas would be like a paint and sip night. You can order paint, kits, paint by number, get a bottle of wine, put it all in a great package, and off it goes. And how fun would that be? You're getting to do a little arts and craft time, learn about a wine. I don't know. I would totally do it. But most importantly, at the end of the day, you got to make purchasing easy. Thank your viewers, engage with them, and promote your next online experience. And Cellar Pass is so excited to partner and promote all California Wine Month experiences. So let us know if you're going to do some special experiences, because we definitely want to chirp and quack about it all over our site, social media, and through our emails. So cheers to everybody watching, and keep up the virtual experiences. We're really excited for you.
Thanks so much, Sarah. That's really great, and we really appreciate the California Wine Month partnership. And now I'm excited to introduce Adrienne Young and Casey Cornwell of Poppy Social Media, and they're going to be talking about selling wine at virtual events, some great using your social media platforms to promote, and then some great Harvest California Wine Month ideas. So over to you, Casey. I think you're kicking off.
Thanks very much, Nancy. Adrienne's going to go to our next slide here. Really, to Sarah's point and to Tina's point, planning is critical to sales, and it's critical to marketing, and it's critical to a successful virtual. So there's really 3 things that you need to look at when you're planning a virtual. Are we talking to trade? And even if we're talking to trade, if you're building something for trade, might whoever you sell to at retail or whoever you sell to in retail extension, so brokers, might that be a slightly different audience than whoever you're working with in restaurants and hospitality? If you're selling and you're working with your SOMs and your purchasers at restaurant and hospitality, you might be crafting something that really is maintaining the relationship because they're not purchasing right now. Versus if you're structuring something towards retail, that might be the core place that you're using as an outlet. when you're working with a consumer audience, Adrienne and I would recommend starting for sure with your own consumer audience. So that would be wine club members, people who've already shared their contact information with you, your own social media following, and then how do you plan to reach out to additional consumers, or do you even want to? And then one of the areas that Adrienne's going to talk about a little bit is business to business sales. Many wineries who are doing virtuals are finding big opportunities in selling business to business, but we're not thinking about it in that way. So those are the different areas. Who are we targeting with an event that we're planning? Or who are we targeting and how are we selling if you're doing custom events? Because custom events and public virtual events are two different things. What are your objectives? Of course, everybody's objectives are ultimately wine sales, right? But if you're working with retail and hospitality trade, it might be, I'm building a relationship now and staying top of mind so I can sell wine later. It might be that you're trying to get membership signups or wine club signups within a consumer program, or you might be doing direct sales or both. Or you're just trying to do ongoing relationship building and staying top of mind for your entire audience. Those are actually, in our opinion, the easiest kind to plan because you have various opportunities for selling and relationship building, but those that are Facebook Lives a lot of times or Instagram Lives, Adrienne will talk about that, can be a little unstructured and a little looser. So Adrienne, my business partner, is going to share about the tactics that you want to be thinking about once you've decided your audience and your objective.
Yes, so a big part of the tactic is thinking about what platform you want to use. If you already have a great Facebook following and you're really just interested in keeping your relationship with your fans going and keeping top of mind, maybe doing a weekly Facebook Live, maybe every Wednesday hop on and plan a little live show for your followers. This will keep you top of mind amongst your consumers. Maybe they're not coming in, every month to your wine tasting room. So it's a great way to keep that connection. Crowdcast is a wonderful platform we used for a really big wine event. And the great thing about Crowdcast is that you can simultaneously live stream to multiple platforms. So if you want to, you can broadcast on Crowdcast, push it out to Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all at the same time with the click of a button. It's amazing. You can also download and then put it on your website afterwards. You can create a paywall. So if you have a really high value experience that you want to charge people just to attend, you can put a paywall in front of it so people have to pay to sign up. Another great piece about that is you don't have to download anything. So attendees don't need to download anything to their computer to tap into the live. Whereas Zoom, which we're using now, which is a wonderful platform and it's gaining in popularity. If you're doing B2B and your audience is already really familiar with that platform, that's a great one to use. Also, if you have like a smaller group, if you're hosting like a birthday party for 20 people for a customized virtual event and you want everybody to be on screen and being able to interact and talk throughout the whole thing, then Zoom is your go-to. But I would encourage you to look at those different platforms when you're planning. And my next slide.
Something that Adrienne and I talk about a lot is using challenges or errors as a sales tool. So you're doing a live, and just like live TV, a virtual broadcast has opportunities for failures, right? You're cooking tacos and the dog, because you're doing a Taco Tuesday pairing, and the dog jumps up and grabs the tacos, or you drop them on the floor, right? You can turn that into a sales opportunity by doing a follow-up email and saying, typical for 2020, we had a taco crisis. Here's a 20% off coupon, and the code is Taco Crisis. So if you go into virtuals knowing that something could go wrong. You might have a challenge, right? If you go into it thinking about marketing after, but also taking anything wrong and turning it into an opportunity, it's a great mindset to have. And it's a sales mindset to have. Take anything that goes wrong on a live and turn it into an opportunity. Both Tina and Sarah talked a little bit about creating a high value experience, certainly bringing viewers into the vineyard, having your winemaker do a blending, but also think about the kind of in-person events that your team was already having. If you were selling private tastings with the winemaker where people purchase the wine, you could sell a package that includes wine and the private tasting. So think about what works for your brand and think about who's great on camera and who interacts with the audience, and set up your virtuals not only to sell, but to capitalize on your own brand. Encourage not only tasting along, so like we talked about, sell a package in advance, but when you're promoting your event, promote the package. Do that in email, do it on social, do it in your messaging that you provide to the Wine Institute, to your other regionals. Go ahead and use the promo code if you have one. If you're offering a taste along pack, if you're gonna have a winemaker taste through wines that went in a previous wine club shipment, that's a great opportunity because you can say, here's the taste along pack. These wines were already in the wine club shipment, but wine club, if you've already drunk those, here's a way to order another set. Then after the event, market directly back to the attendees. So we say promo code to the attendees. So market directly to them and say, thank you so much for attending our event. Here's a code that allows you to buy one tasting pack at the regular price or 2 tasting packs at a discount. Give yourself volume and quantity if those are your goals. Pop the slide over, thank you. So highlight wine club membership and relationship building. You can offer a special digital piece, and this can really just be something that you type out that's a PDF that has recipe ideas or pairings or tasting notes. And that's for opting into your email list. So if you decide to do a public event, you decide to do a Facebook Live, you don't want to do something that's behind a paywall or that people have to register for, you can always provide the link for opting in. So you have an opportunity to data collect and you're going to give them something on the other end. And I think one of the things that's critical in marketing of events, in email and in social media, is you should have great pictures, and you always want to have something that people want to save and that people want to share. So if there's a dog that's everybody's favorite wine dog that's known to be at your winery, you send the cutest picture of Brutus in the vineyard that you have, and the code for getting a discount or for free registration is Brutus. And the marketing is, Brutus misses seeing you, and so do we. Here's where to register for our virtual event. Here's a code for purchasing wine. Use every opportunity and every layer to have something that is savable and something that is shareable. Then post-event, you want to send an email to those attendees thanking them. So don't just take those emails and dump them into your main email program. Thank your attendees, offer them a gift or a program or a discount, and then maybe a week later, talk about the virtual that happened in an email to everyone that also includes those attendees.
So when there's a huge opportunity right now for business to business for wineries. Businesses used to, host big in-person events for rewards for their star employees, for holiday celebrations, for team building activities, and those are just no longer there. But there's still a budget there for most places to do that, and they still want to do something. So this is a great place for wineries to really tap into that. It's and an example is Terlato Terlato virtually hosted 250 Canadian investment bank and financial services employees, which led to a $40,000 piece of business. So that's a great opportunity. I mean, how many of us have been on vacation in Hawaii and somewhere really nice and seen like big groups of sales teams for, you know, pharmaceutical reps or whatever as part of rewards. So they're not going to be doing that right now. So this is a great place for wineries to really step in and take that piece of business. And chances are, once they do it, they're going to do it again, because who doesn't love wine? So we would encourage everyone to offer business packages for businesses to do such a thing, you know, and also customize pieces for them as well. And when you offer them, don't think of just offering them to trade or B2B. Think of also offering the packages to your wine list, because chances are the people who enjoy your wine and are on your wine list, they have their own businesses and their own holiday parties coming up, and they're trying to figure out how am I going to celebrate my team? They're already a fan of your wine, so you know they should be one of the first people you very high on your list for letting them know about these packages. And then next, we're going to talk about a winery that's doing a wonderful job of hosting virtual events, J-Lore. They have here's an example of two separate events that they did that were very highly interactive with two different audiences. For the J-Lore Sip and Color virtual event, they tasted their lifestyle wines. They had an art submission contest. They had downloadable art that people could color and submit online prior to the tasting and during the tasting. So they incorporated that interactive hands-on event piece. They also had employees from across their departments representing diversity and different perspectives talk on the Sip and Color. So it was a very, very fun, casual online tasting. Another tasting they hosted, another virtual they hosted was Celebrate Father's Day with Jerry and Cynthia Lohr, and family and highlighting family and the importance of family is very strong throughout their J-Lohr brand. So tying in Father's Day was just very natural for them. Through this event, they tasted their high-end wines. They had people submit photos of their fathers that they shared throughout the virtual tasting. And they also highlighted their long-term wine club members throughout the tasting. So two different, very, very different events, very interactive, really brought the participants into the presentation. They also created a J-Lore at Home website page where they've archived their past events. They have signups for future events. And they also have created some experience people can download, like this really fun bingo sheet for at home. So they've done a lot for really tapped into that J-Lore at Home experience. And the next winery, or the next example we're going to talk about again is Terlato Wines, which we touched on a few slides ago. They have a wide variety of virtual events they are offering people, from very small family group gatherings, celebrating. I have a menu, tasting menu here. They have, it says Happy Birthday Dan at the top, and they have like the date of the party. And this is like a group of friends and family that they created this virtual experience just for his birthday. They've done everything from that to, like we said, hosting this big financial firm of 250 people. So they've really created events for everybody. They've created events, and they've also offered add-ons so that you can do a wine tasting. You can also do wine and cheese pairings. They've celebrated everything from holidays to happy hours to just because events. So they're doing an excellent job. They are also doing a lot of, they are doing exclusive events for California Wine Month. So that's great. And they're also doing like some So we would encourage you to think about events coming up that you want to tap into, much like Terlato did, and create virtual events surrounding those. And then and do that's because why? I think we've shown because these custom and private events, they sell wine, and ultimately that's the objective.
I see lots of questions about sending 750 mLs when you're doing a tasting event. And certainly, as Tina shared, or if you're marketing to media, maybe you don't want to send full-size bottles. But if you're doing custom events or your own private tasting event, maybe the taste along pack is 2 wines and it's 2 bottles of each, and they get four bottles, but you're only tasting 2 wines, or you're only talking about 2 wines. So they're opening 2 bottles, tasting into those 2 bottles, and you've made a package that sells them 2 more. So they're tasting through the wine, they have 2 more. Or if you're doing a custom event, like we are with these business events, you maybe are sending a gift pack, right? The business is sending a gift pack, and it's got your top 5 wines or your top 4 wines or their favorite selections or whatever it is. But the virtual you're doing is specific to 2 of them. So you're not asking a consumer, hey, you now have 5 bottles of wine, and to taste wine with the winemaker, you must open all 5. But you definitely want to maybe choose to taste the ones that you have plenty of inventory of and you're trying to sell. So here are a few, and we can answer more in Q&A if you have more questions, but just think about the beauty of virtual events is you can position them so they work for you. So here are some ideas for bringing Harvest, bringing people into Harvest or bringing people into California Wine Month through virtual events. You could just live stream behind the scenes and Harvest content. So that doesn't have to be a huge plan. Like Adrienne said, you can use Crowdcast and go multi-channel, or if you're very strong on Facebook or you're very strong on Instagram, choose one of those and let everybody know, okay, we're gonna go live on Tuesday at 10 a.m. If the winemaker is too busy because you're in the middle of harvest, have a marketing person or a tasting room manager or an assistant winemaker walking through with a next-gen iPhone or an iPad, just showing what's going on and sharing behind the scenes and offering a code for sales. Winemaker walk through the vineyard. As Tina mentioned, don't just walk through the vineyard and say, this is the Chardonnay. If you have 3 wines from D Block that you're trying to sell, walk through D Block. Tell them what's special about D Block and why it matters. We have a couple of different examples here. One is Nikki and Ali Wente. They're doing an amazing job on Facebook Live. Every Wednesday, they're on Facebook Live, tasting through different wines, talking about their family, talking about wine pairings, and their consumers have come to expect that on Wednesday, Nikki and Ali are going to be doing something, they don't know what. So that's one that builds relationships and also ultimately sells wine. And because it's regular, it gives them an opportunity to ask for email addresses or let everybody know what's on special or let them know about new releases. Amelia Ceja from Ceja Vineyards specializes in creating wines that pair well with Mexican food. So Amelia is regularly doing Taco Tuesday. She cooks a recipe, she talks about how it pairs with her wines, she offers an opportunity to purchase that wine, she shares that recipe. If you are not somebody that maybe wants to do recipes or that doesn't work for your brand, think about maybe some of the iconic restaurants. Somebody that Adrienne and I work with a lot is Phil's Fish Market in Moss Landing on the Central Coast. And so a great promo with Phil's might be, hey, we miss seeing you on the Central Coast and we're sure you miss visiting. We're happy to share that you can at least get a little taste because our friends at Phil's Fish Market ship their famous Cioppino. Here are 2 of our wines that we think pair beautifully. You can support Vils and you can support us and you can have your seaside Cioppino moment at home. Then Phil's is going to share that and so are you. So it doesn't Customize it to your brand and customize it to your marketing. You can do harvest kits for pre-sale in advance of a virtual. A harvest kit might be 2 wines you're going to taste through, 2 wines that have just been released that are from your most recent harvests, obviously, and maybe some tasting notes or some behind the scenes. Maybe it's got pictures of some things that have happened in recent harvests. Special harvest theme recipes. One of the things Nancy is actually displaying, one of Wine Institute's Zoom background. I don't know, is that a Wine Institute Zoom background, Nancy? Yes, it is. So you can take great pictures from your property and you can share them not only so people can use them as Zoom backgrounds, but people could use them as wallpaper on their phone or header images on social media. Crop them and share them and let people download them. So think about how you can interact and how you can sell all the way through the process. Ready for our next slide. And harnessing social media to market your events. We talked a lot about email, but I saw one question. Do we think that spending money on a photographer is key? We do not think you need to spend money on a photographer always, but you should have really great images, at least a few, for media, for social media, for your email. And you should think about, if you're going to book a photo shoot, all of the reasons you might use it. So if you're doing media pitching, go back and look at some of the images. We're going to share this with you after that Jean recommended. Think about what you want for social media and think about how you're going to market, because yes, great images get shared and get saved. So share your content with your partners. If you're planning virtual events, Wine Institute, Nancy's going to show you how you can upload your content. That's where Jean pulls from, that's where Tina pulls from, and that's where our team pulls from social media sharing. Share with your regional wine association and your visitors bureau. Create an event on Facebook if you have a strong Facebook following or even a smaller Facebook following, and invite California Wines, that's our page, to be a co-host. Then your event will be listed on our page as well. Use beautiful images or iconic images or great images, but use good images every time on everything. If you're creating a dual cast, ask your guest presenter to share the event. So even if you have your winemaker and somebody from your marketing team, they should be telling their personal followers that they're going live. If you are if you're going to do a partnership with a restaurant, maybe a restaurant that's in your region and they have direct delivery, or you've worked with them often and you just kind of help them and keep them going, have the restaurant share a recipe or demo a recipe and talk about your wines that it pairs well with. Share the content to their channels and share it to yours. We can't encourage you enough to always use the California Wines hashtag with an S, because that's how our team looks for content throughout the year. And then California Wine Month during September and lead up to September when it's relevant. And also, many of your regions have their own hashtags. So like Lodi Wine, Paso Wine, Napa uses it's from Napa. If you use those hashtags, you're also reaching the followers that are specifically looking for that content. And boost the event. Boost your posts about the event on Facebook and Instagram. $20 can get you 20,000 impressions. And many of those social media platforms are pay to play. Certainly Facebook and Instagram are. And so you can reach a significant number of your audience for not a lot of money. And you won't reach much of your audience if you don't. So that's it for us. Nancy, we'll throw it back to you.
Thanks so much, Adrian and Casey. That was great information. And I just want to remind people that we will be making this presentation available to all participants, because I know we've been covering a lot. This is a great time to add some questions. I know we've already got some questions and we're going to get to that in a minute, but I just wanted to again urge all members. We have our California Wine Month 2020 Toolkit. It's got social media tags, banners, logos, and much more in that. It is available to all members to use. I'm going to share contacts at the end, but you'll be getting it in tomorrow's news briefs newsletter. We'll have a reminder in there. Next slide, please, Shin. So as mentioned, our Discover California Wines, this is our consumer website. It's the place that you post your offers. You can be doing your reservation on any platform. That was one of the questions somebody had. If it's posted on our Wine Institute website, it will be on our landing page, and it will be accessible and used by our PR team and our social media team. So this is where you want to post your event. Again, the deadline to be involved in our initial publicity is August 14th, but we're talking about events through August and September. So if you don't have it, please post anytime throughout the month. And please also submit a great photo to go with that. We use these photos not only in the post about your event, but these are photos that we might pull from when we get a request for media who want to cover events. So that's really important. So I think, Shan, if we could go to the next slide, that we are ready to do some Q&A. Yes, that's right. And I think I covered that question we had about the fact that you don't have to be taking a reservation. SellerPass has a system set up, and that's great, but it doesn't have to be through SellerPass, although we're going to be doing a great partnership with them where they're also going to be promoting events. So we're very excited about that. I know this question has come up, and Casey, you touched upon it. And Jean, you talked about it too, but I'm going to throw this to Jean again just to talk about the importance of images and this idea of hiring a professional for your video or your still photography, because this is something we've covered in a lot of our webinars and really can't emphasize enough.
Hey there. Yes, if you have the budget, I do think it's worth having professional come and take some images. Sometimes, we think we're taking a good image, and when we get back to the house or the winery, in your case, the lighting may not be that good, and the composition may not be what you thought. So it's just really great to have it in the hands of a professional if you have the budget. As far as shooting goes, and I might ask Sarah to chime in on this too. We think if you have the budget, it's great to have a videographer who can take that off of your hands. But if you don't have the budget, we've seen plenty of instances where people have taken an iPad and shot an iPhone and shot some footage. So it could work the other way as well. You just want to make sure you have somebody who's, got a fairly good eye for lighting and composition and has a steady hand too. Do you have anything to add, Sarah?
That's a really good point is, you don't have to invest in a videographer. They're quite pricey. But chances are you have somebody who has a fairly steady hand, understands some of the basic dynamics of shooting in general. There are a lot of resources, believe it or not, online. I believe Apple, actually, if you go to Apple's site, they have a lot of tools and tutorials on how to shoot great photos, great video, all from the iPhone devices. I stumbled on it a few months ago. It's priceless. So if you're up for it, do it. I recommend it. They do talk about lighting and proportions and your frame size and really demystify the iPhone, because for me, I was always a Samsung girl and I've recently moved to an iPhone. So it was a learning curve. But it can take you from being a complete novice to looking semi-pro on your own. And if you do have a videographer or a really great photographer that happens to be able to shoot a little video, it's worth it. But imagery is king. I can't stress that enough. You guys can't stress that enough. For SellerPass, when we're doing our emails and our promotions of our clients' events, sometimes we have to skip over some because they just have nothing image-wise compelling, and we're like, ouch, it's really hard. So do all of us a favor by putting up really great imagery and supplying that. It just makes it so much easier. We work with media too. They come to us asking, in early spring, what's going on for harvest, and sometimes we have clients that are, see in advance and they put up just the basic information and have some good imagery. We can send that down the pipeline, but if it's not there, it's really hard to work with. and just work with it. Get some B-roll. You know, if you're going to hire the photographer and the videographer, maximize it. Get some B-roll of your vineyards, your property. Keep all that in your asset library so that you can use that not only for your own marketing and through media kits, but for when you're doing your online experiences. It gives you something to pull from, and definitely having more is worth it.
And I would
I'd like
just
to
add
just-
to that. Oh, sorry.
No,
You
go
want
ahead.
to go, Tina? Oh, I was just going to say, you go.
Okay, I'm gonna go. I was gonna say, if you are shooting your own video, get yourself a tripod. They are cheap. That can make a huge, huge difference. You don't have to worry about trying to hold your hand steady or whatever. You know, you could get just like a tall one on a stand that you can adjust up and down. Or it's also cool to have one that has sort of little windy legs on it that you can attach to things. So you could like attach it to the top of one of your fermentation tanks and sort of show what's going on inside there. So it's totally worth doing that. It can really, really make a difference.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I just wanted to add one quick thing to Sarah's point about what media need. One of the things that hurts our pitching sometimes is when we don't have photos with people in them enjoying the different experiences you guys offer. Sometimes if, let's say, they're doing a story on picnics with a great view, you know, we'll get a beautiful view and a table that's beautifully set, but there's no people, and they won't use things like that. So just to keep that in mind as you're taking your photos, make sure to have people.
Terrific. So I'm just going to, this is a question that is about sources for tasting size bottles. And that's something I'm happy to look into, but I think there's probably a number of members on the call that can answer that in chat. The person that wrote it has said that what they're finding is quite expensive. So I know lots of people are using them. We'll come back, do some more research on that, but if anybody has a response to that. I also wanted to, we will also come back with a more detailed answer, but there's a question on the example you gave of Phil's for a winery, Casey, about Tide House considerations. And again, we'll come back with something very specific on that, but basically the rule is that as long as we're not making laudatory comments about a license holder, so it can be a subtle thing. If you're saying we're partnering with Phil's restaurant, seafood, and we're sending wine, that's okay. If we're saying Phil's has a great California wine list and it has our wines and this is a terrific location, and that's different. And it is very subtle and it's important. So we will respond more fully in our follow-up with participants on that as well. Meanwhile, I'm going to ask this one of Casey and perhaps also of Sarah. There's a question about, is it more popular to do scheduled events or to offer kind of people custom events, I guess, if they can schedule? I think those are two different kinds of things. So maybe we'll start with you, Casey, on that.
Yeah, I think it's based entirely on your goals. So like we talked about, looking at your goals and what your target is. For somebody like, for instance, we gave the sample of Wente, who is really doing it for engagement, to stay top of mind, and to build relationships with their audience, then a regularly scheduled Wine Wednesday that is not behind a paywall, that is streamed to their social media channels is the way to go, because the goal for that is top of mind, brand awareness, and essentially a soft sale of wine. And if what you are trying to do is sell a package that sells multiple bottles of wine and a private tasting with your winemaker and you're marketing that, then you want to do not only target a time that you think will work for your audience. So if you have lots of people that you believe are still working, then you're going to need to do a weekend afternoon or an early evening. If you are doing a cooking demo and wine pairing, then that's something that you're going to schedule for roughly 3 to 5 p.m. is we found is the sweet spot for that. So the answer is, when is a good time and what is the best scheduling has to do with planning and goals.
Sarah, anything to add to that?
Well, Casey's point is exactly that. It's understanding what your goals are. And I do believe that it's important to offer both. That having scheduled experiences that are more private, one-on-one, that's a different experience than doing a public Facebook Live broadcast where you are doing brand engagement. You just want to kind of be out there. But the key for both is having a consistent schedule, something your guests can rely on to come back on. You kind of have like, think of it as like you drive by that billboard, you're like, whoa, that looked interesting. That's kind of your first pass. And if that was the one-hit wonder and they come back to where they saw it, it may not be there. So offering up, the bookable, I would say like, reservable experiences, have a schedule that's going to go on for a little while. It doesn't have to be every day, but you can have, a sequence of, 3 or 4 over a course of a month or a couple of months. And the same thing for any of the public experiences where it's brand engagement. The Winty Wednesday, experience is perfect for that. It's built a cadence with their own viewers that they know on Wednesday, there's going to be a little something going on. But when you reach a broader audience, they start to build on, hey, these are these free, easy to access, wine experiences that are there. We have some guests that I've come to know on Cellar Pass. It's so funny from being on live chat and all these things. I've developed relationships over the years. And we have a few that have openly told us that they come to our site to find all of these Facebook Live and different things that are going on. And they spend an evening hopping from one to the next to the next. And they love it, especially some of our East Coast followers back in March and April. They were like dying to get out. And they were just so excited to sit at home and drink virtually with all these different winemakers and people that they've only ever heard from. It also gave opportunity for them to meet winemakers and wineries they never engaged with before. So I do believe there's such a huge opportunity that breaks all the boundaries of geographic location with these virtual experiences. I mean, think about it. For the first time, it doesn't matter if you're in Napa or Paso or Oklahoma, for that matter. The virtual experiences allows viewers from all over the country and world, for that matter, to join you and get to know you. So I say, take this opportunity, because it's a moment in time that I don't know if we'll have back. I hope we don't. But in a way, take the silver lining on it and go for it.
Thanks so much, Sarah. So we are at our end point here. We have a couple of questions. We'll do our best to respond to those in a follow-up. We're going to have a news release follow-up on this in addition to a copy of the presentation. Shin, thank you for doing that. This is our contact information. And we will, again, be including this in the follow-up. Somebody had a question about whether their event needed to be extra special to be part of California Wine Month or Wine Institute's celebration. Of course, the more unique and special, the more likely you get attention. But any event that's open, and it has to be open to the general, well, these are virtual, so I guess they're going to be open to anything, but it can't just be a club event. And of course, you need to be a Wine Institute member. So at this point, I want to thank our wonderful presenters with a virtual round of applause. I'll do a real one for such great information. And I want to thank all of our attendees as well. I hope you found it worthwhile and had some good ideas and events from this. And we really look forward to seeing your California Wine Month events, hopefully by August 14th, very soon. So again, thank you so much for joining us and have a great day.